And so now Oedipus has condemned himself. And they call in the old herdsman who originally found him and told the story about taking him, to Thebes. And then Oedipus realizes what has happened, and Jocasta realizes what has happened, and so she hangs herself. She cannot bear this, that she has brought, not only has she married her son, but she is also instrumental in that marriage by sending her child away. So she hangs herself. Oedipus comes in, sees Jocasta hanging, takes her pins or her brooches, pokes out his eyes, and banishes himself from the kingdom. And so he is to, wander the earth until he dies blinded. And then Creon, who is about the only good man left in the kingdom, assumes kingdom. Now this play gave birth to other plays, Antigone, and we also get a modern play called Morning Becomes Electra, about Oedipus's daughter. And I'm not going to go into those plays, but there is a continuation of this play. We also get the term Oedipus complex that Freud came up, wherein, young boys are supposed to want to marry their mothers. However, Robert Graves says that this whole thing about Oedipus marrying his mother is a corruption of earlier myths, wherein it wasn't the son that married the mother, but there would have been a ritual where they would have sacrificed the king every year or every 7 years, and the older queen would then marry a younger king. And Robert Graves says that's what this play is about. So this is the story of Oedipus. Again, it has to do with theme. Of course, there is a plot, there is a conflict, and the conflict is, of course, the problems that they're having in Thebes with the famine and the sickness. There is a crisis. The crisis is when Oedipus finds out that he is the one who killed his father and married his mother. And then there is the resolution wherein Jocasta kills herself and Oedipus blinds himself and he takes off, and then there is a new king of Corinth. So having a background in myth certainly helps. But how we know about these myths, in part, is by reading these ancient playwrights. And we have a large store of plays by ancient authors. There's also some that we don't have, which is kind of sad. But I wanted to hit upon some of the aspects in the play that I talked about that demonstrate it. The story that I just told. So if you're looking at your text on page 1841, about lines 40, they're saying, the priest says to Oedipus, "You came, and by your coming saved our city, freed us from tribute which we paid of old to the Sphinx, cruel singer." So this is that background information telling you, the audience, of how Oedipus killed the Sphinx and, saved Thebes. See, this is something that modern readers, when you're first reading it cold, you might not understand that. And that's why I wanted to give you a background on this. And there, and the clue on page 1843, it talks about, what is going on, the man who, killed the old king, and that the clue is within the land. This also connects later with Arthur, and Arthur has a big connection with Oedipus, because Arthur too has a little bit of incestuous affairs with his sister Morgana. The land suffers because Arthur is in a state of, for lack of a better word, sin, and then Arthur has to cleanse or purify himself, and he dies in order to bring England back to a state of fertility. And then on page 852, starting at about line 495, you have Tiresias, who is a character in myth. And he talks about what is going to happen to this person who killed the king. And it says, he will be shown to be a citizen, true native Theban, and he'll have no joy of the discovery, blindness for sight, and beggary for riches for his exchange. He shall go journeying to a foreign country, tapping his way before him with the stick. He shall be proved father and brother, both to his own children in his house, to her that gave him birth, a son and husband both, a fellow sower in his father's bed, with that same father that he murdered. So Tiresias is saying this is what's going on, but still, at this point, Oedipus has no clue that Tiresias is talking about him. And so then they bring in the herdsman, and that is, well, I thought I had that marked, but, oh, I'm sorry, before the herdsman comes in, Oedipus talks about his time in Corinth, and on page 865, he talks about that prophecy, and at about line 1055, he said, once on a time, Loxias said that I should lie with my own mother, and that take on my hands the blood of my own father. And so for these long years, I've lived away from Corinth. So again, he was trying to circumvent his fate, not faith. And then you have the messengers come in, and you find out what, the whole story about Oedipus being sent away. And then on page 1872, you have Jocasta who kills herself, and about line 13:8. When she came raging into the house, she went straight to her marriage bed, tearing her hair with both her hands and crying upon Lauus, long dead. Do you remember, Lauus, that night long past which bred a child for us, to send you to your death and leave a mother making children with her son? And then she groaned and cursed the bed in which she brought both her husband, children by her own child. So this knowledge is too great for Jocasta. She simply can't live with it. And so she hangs herself. And then still on that same page, about 1335, when he saw her, he cried out fearfully and cut the dangling noose. Then as she lay, poor woman, on the ground, what happened after was terrible to see. He tore the brooches, the gold-chased brooches, from fastening her robe away from her, and lifting them up high, dashed them down on his own eyeballs, shrieking out such things as, they will never see the crime I have committed and done upon me. And then on page 1874, Oedipus, after he has blinded himself, about 1420, said, then I would not have come to kill my father and marry my mother infamously. Now I am godless and child of impurity, begetter in the same seed that created my wretched self. Is there any ill worse than ill? And that is the lot of Oedipus. So this is definitely a tragedy. There is no joy left in this at all. And I'm going to stop here because I'm running long and I'm not going to do another video. But this should give you an idea about this myth and how important the theme is.